Good day to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our Tropical Weather Outlook video for today, Saturday, August 2nd, 2025. On today's Tropical Weather Outlook, we have an area highlighted by the National Hurricane Center this morning off the east coast of the United States, which could potentially develop in the coming days. There's definitely a decent model signal on both the operational and the ensembles. I'm going to go over all the models in a bit and a sneak peek as well, of course, at what the models are showing in a few weeks when the Atlantic could really start to kick into high gear and get active, as I've been saying all along that it would very, very soon. Let's start off with the National Hurricane Center homepage for today, the latest 8 a.m. tropical weather outlook. We now have, once again, area of interest off the East Coast here associated with this frontal system, which is moving off the East Coast right now. And water temperatures are very, very warm. I'll show you the water temperature anomalies in just a minute, but they are very, very warm, and models are hinting at potential development here. So the National Hurricane Center has designated an area of interest. Like I said that they would. I think I actually said it yesterday that I wouldn't be surprised if very soon they would highlight an area, and obviously today they now did. An area of low pressure is expected to form on Saturday along a frontal system off of the southeastern coast of the United States. Additional slow development could occur through early next week as the system moves slowly east-northeastward. Development chance in the next 48 hours, 10%, and over the next 7 days at 20%. So we now have an area of interest to watch in the Atlantic here. And this is probably going to be the start, as I'll show you later on. This will probably be the start of things beginning to get more active here in the Atlantic over the next several weeks. Meanwhile, in the Eastern Pacific, things are still very active. We have Tropical Storm Gil, which was a hurricane overnight. It did strengthen into a hurricane, but this morning just weakened back down to a tropical storm. Maximum sustained winds are 70 miles per hour, minimum central pressure 992 millibars. It's located, if you're tracking it, at 18.3 north, 128.6 west, and it is moving west-northwest at 20 miles per hour. And this is probably, just really quickly looking at its track, going to continue to move off to the west-northwest and probably die by the time we get to tomorrow. It's already beginning to move into cooler sea surface temperatures, and of course drier air, and that's going to kill it off in the next day or so here. So don't have to worry about Gil anymore. We also have another area of interest here. Not sure if this is designated an invest yet, but it probably will soon. And once it does, it'll get the designation invest 90E, since I think Gil was 99E. So this will probably get 90E since, we recycle. And this will probably also likely develop and become another storm, at least according to the models, and so will this area too, which is a moderate chance right off the southeast coast, or right off the southwestern coast of Mexico. So lots of activity still present in the Pacific, and they'll probably continue to get at least a few more named storms as we head into the next week here in the Pacific. But then eventually we'll have to start watching the Atlantic, obviously, more closely. Here's a satellite image of the Pacific right now. You can see Tropical Storm Gil. Still doing decently right now, but you could start to see not as organized, definitely, as it looked yesterday. Definitely starting to feel the effects of cooler sea surface temperatures and drier air that's awaiting it, and it'll probably continue to choke on it. And by tomorrow, we'll probably be talking about a remnant low with Gil. And then meanwhile, in the rest of the Pacific, lots of cloud cover and convective activity here in the Eastern Pacific. We probably have roughly around this area here, which is what's associated with our AOI, that has a high chance of development in the next few days here, and that'll probably develop. And then we also have more convective activity here throughout the Pacific. So things still remaining active versus the Atlantic right now. Things still not yet active, at least in terms of convective activity in the atmosphere. You can still see lots of dry air, especially in the eastern Atlantic. Although I will say that this wave here near the northern islands and bringing probably lots of thunderstorms and heavy rain to Puerto Rico right now is looking kind of interesting. Did look especially interesting earlier this morning, but that's probably because of the D-max oceanic cycle, which helped trigger lots of convective activity with this storm, with this wave. And if you actually remember, a few weeks ago, this was a wave that was very aggressively hinted at on the models, but obviously not materializing right now. But we are then going to have to watch off the southeast coast to maybe see if we could actually get something to develop here, because you could clearly see lots of convective activity there, and you kind of have a convective bursts going on right here, happening as we speak. And this area of the Atlantic right now, still kind of the early season where we typically see, because as I mentioned yesterday, we're into August, still only at the beginning of the month of August. So the deep tropics are not yet extremely favorable. So we're still kind of focusing on development here off the East Coast. And I'll show you with sea surface temperature anomalies. Just look off the East Coast here. Oh boy, are they warm. They are much above normal. Water temperatures as much as a degree. Many areas with 2 degrees, and even some areas here, these small slivers, especially right along the Gulf Stream, you could see maybe as much as even 3 degrees Celsius above normal. So sea surface temperatures are very warm, combined with this typical, we have these setups where we have fronts that come off the East Coast, low pressures form on the tail end of the front, and then if they're able to successfully break off and consolidate, they are able to develop and become tropical systems. We had this, if you remember, last month with Chantal, and it looks like the same setup is now happening here off the East Coast. So water temperatures are very warm for development for that, as is the rest of the Atlantic, especially here through the Gulf, through the Caribbean, and again into the MDR. Very, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies right now, and that's probably going to continue to remain the case over the next several weeks, especially now as we're heading into the month of August and we are heading into the peak. The Atlantic is very, very warm. And taking a look at the models here, especially in the Atlantic off the southeast coast, hot off the press right as the 12Z GFS is still loading, is loading enough that it's showing what's going to happen here off the southeast coast. And you could see within the next 24 hours, actually, the GFS shows a low pressure here coming off the coast of the United States, consolidates pretty well, and that actually looks like a pretty decent low-level system here, and then that moves off into the East Coast, and then another low-pressure area develops behind that. So that's interesting to see if that actually ends up happening. And then in general, you can see here on the 12Z GFS, lots of activity occurring off the southeast coast, with multiple low pressures that try to break off and consolidate and try to become their own systems. Just a general indication that the southeast coast off the East Coast will be one of the major areas now that we need to watch for potential tropical development over the next week or so. So we'll have to monitor that. And then interestingly enough here in the GFS, as we get towards the end of next week, you're starting to notice as well, that's a pretty interesting looking area here in the MDR. And as I've been saying, this is August 8th and August 9th. So this is starting to get towards the second week of August. Things are starting to become much more primed for development out here in the deep tropics. And I'll show you that with the Euro ensembles really quickly to wrap up before we end off. Number one, very strong signal here off the East Coast. And this is the 6C European ensemble run. Lots of pretty aggressive ensembles here, and even a few that actually have a pressure in the 980. So there's definitely a signal here off the East Coast. And then eventually, especially as we head towards the end of the model run, because this run goes out to 144 hours out, so that's 6 days, you start to notice the European ensembles hinting at activity here in the MDR and the deep tropics. And it's all a sign of things becoming more favorable over the next several weeks as we progress into the month of August, as I've been saying would happen. And it's now looking like it's starting to come to fruition. and we'll have to see what exactly happens. But things are going to start ramping up in the Atlantic soon, and I think that this area off the East Coast is just the beginning of it, and it's one of the first things we'll see that'll probably help eventually kick things off for the Atlantic and eventually for the lid to be able to come off, and we will truly see the Atlantic in action very soon here in the coming weeks. It's just a matter of when. But for now, still things quiet in the Atlantic right now. Although once again that'll probably change over the next several days. So please stay tuned to the tropics. Obviously, we're now in the month of August, and one of the ways you can stay tuned is by liking this video and especially subscribing to my channel now, because we are now in the month of August. We're getting into the peak of the season, and we're going to continue to do these videos every single day. So if you are interested in that type of content, I would really recommend you to subscribe and also share this video with family and friends as well, and anybody who might be interested in content and information like this. That's going to do it for today's video. Hope you enjoy what you saw today. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. I'll be back with more tomorrow.